in 2016 because the people have spoken. They were upset. They voted to get rid of the people that were being sticks in the mud. They got rid of them. The new class came in, and apparently they've been cowered right away. So we'll clean house, we'll get rid of them, and we'll start it all anew. Next up, Obama's enemies list. Much like Richard Nixon, it was declared in 2013 that Obama had been spying on Fox News reporter James Rosen. He had also managed to get the phone records of ABC reporters, as well as Cheryl Atkinson, a reporter that was doing research and reporting on the Fast and Furious scandal. He got hold of her computer. She took it to a forensic expert, and they had found code in her computer that was downloaded by an intelligence-level agency. This was not something a hacker had put on. It was code that was definitely intelligence community doings. They actually made up a list in the White House of reporters, talk show hosts, anybody that was going to be a problem to the president's agenda. We got more on this and a whole lot more coming up. Please stick around. We got a few more bills to pay, and we will be...
Tom O'Halloran, holding the line against tyranny from Washington, D.C.
I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. There is still work that must be done. I will not rest until we won. I am America.
Welcome back. This is the Wednesday night edition of the Patriot-Radio Show, and I am your host, Tom O'Halloran. Okay, just before the break, we were talking about the Obama's enemies list. Fast and Furious gun running scandal was one of the agitators to the list. The reporter that did most of the discovery work on that was Cheryl Atkinson. And the Justice Department's Inspector General found that a high-ranking Obama political appointee destroyed the credibility and the career of John Dodson, a special agent for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. This is the guy that reported the Fast and the Furious, the ones that reported that the United States was actually allowing and instructing gun shops in Arizona, New Mexico, to sell guns to known criminals so that they can be taken across the border to Mexico. And this Inspector General reported on it, and then he was outed. His credibility and his career were destroyed by the Obama administration for revenge. Next up, racial strife created by Obama and his administration. As an African-American who rose to the pinnacle of his profession as director of the pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Ben Carson is in a position to assess racial relations in America. And he thinks that despite the great leap forward with the election of a black president in 2008, he says relations between the races have definitely gotten worse. He says, I actually believe that things were better before the president was elected, and I think that things have gotten worse because of his unusual emphasis on race. Now, this started back with right after the election, when the Department of Justice refused to In fact, they didn't just refuse. George W. Bush's Department of Justice had actually tried and found guilty the new Black Panthers. They found them guilty of intimidating white voters at polling places. This was a federal crime. Somebody was due to do some serious prison time. But Eric Holder stepped in and dismissed the charges. Now, you don't dismiss charges after you have a conviction. This is stupid. Nobody does this. You've already got a conviction. To dismiss the charges at that point is purely criminal. Now you have known criminals that you're releasing out onto the streets. After that, it was the Harvard professor. It was the Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates was arrested at his doorstep. He was arrested at his doorstep, trying to break into his house. He tried telling the police that it was his house. The police asked him to step away from the house. He argued, and he was arrested. Obama went on TV and said, "I don't have all the facts, but the police acted stupidly." If you don't have all the facts, Obama, you shouldn't be speaking. Obama has Eric Holder send agitators from the Department of Justice. Since when do they have agitators in the Department of Justice? He sends a team of agitators down to Florida to train people how to protest and agitate and make noise. After the verdict is declared and George Zimmerman is declared not guilty, Eric Holder says it's not good enough and he's going to continue a federal investigation. Since when is not guilty not good enough? The jury has spoken. That's the way it works in this country, unless you're an out-and-out racist. Next up, we fast forward to Ferguson. Officer Darren Wilson is getting beat on by Michael Brown, a black drugged-up thug that had just robbed a store. In self-defense, he pulls the trigger and shoots Michael Brown, dead. Again, Eric Holder on a plane shows up. He states to the public, "I am the Attorney General of the United States of America, but I'm also a black man, and I understand how it feels." He's not siding with law and order. He's siding with people that are stirring up problems. Every racist group in America was on the ground in Ferguson. Every Muslim organization, every gay, lesbian, transgender organization, every Palestinian organization, every anarchist organization you could shake a stick at. We've gone through these groups over and over and over on this show. And he's on the ground siding with them again against the police department. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago when him and Al Sharpton were stirring up people in New York after a black man is wrestled to the ground in New York City and has a heart attack. Al Sharpton, who has been to the White House 80 times, 80 times in the last 5 years, he is an instrument of this administration. Nothing less. Well, yes, he's a lot less. He's a race-baiting media whore. He's marching in the streets leading chants. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it? Now. And the next day, 2 police officers are shot sitting in their patrol car in New York City. Barack Obama has done more to divide races in his 5 years in office than any human being has in the history of America. He's brought political division and racism to new heights. We have black gangs roving the cities, in over 80 cities in America in recent years, playing the knockout game, because they know if it's black on white crime, it won't be prosecuted. It won't even be reported in most cases. So a gang of blacks, 12, 15, 20 black youths, will swarm on a little old lady and punch her out, trying to knock her out in one swing, because they know it's acceptable in Barack Obama's America. Folks, stick around. We've got a lot more coming up. We'll be right back.
Tom O'Halloran has a not-so-common core spelling lesson for the Obama administration. Ready? There is no K in America.
There's kids that can't pray in school, $100 tanks of gas. I can tell you right now, this country ain't supposed to be like that. No, that ain't my America. That ain't this country's roots. You wanna slam all on the Sam, but I ain't letting you. Yeah, I'm mad as hell, and you know I still bleed red, white, and blue. They ain't us, and that ain't my America. Oh no, that ain't my America. No, 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 no. That ain't my America.
Welcome back. This is the Wednesday night edition of the Patriot Radio Show, and I'm your host, Tom O'Halloran. We're doing something a little different tonight. We're counting down through the top 10 media cover-ups of 2014, and we're running out of runway here, so we're going to skip around just a little bit and cover the two most important ones. And next up is the Muslim persecution of Christians. And this started in the Middle East. It started with Obama embracing the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt and ousting President Mubarak. Mubarak had been a dictator for 40 years, but he had been a benevolent dictator. He had kept peace between the nations in the area and Israel. He had kept the Muslim Brotherhood terrorists out of his country, and he had led with a steady hand. This wasn't good enough for Obama because he is all about the Muslim Brotherhood, so he stirred things up. He saw to it that the Muslim Brotherhood had the money that they needed to get in and get armed, and they overthrew President Mubarak. And with these Muslims in power, they started burning churches down, burning Christian churches, beheading Christians wherever they lived, exiling the ones that could get out ahead of the executions. More churches were burnt down and torn down in Egypt in the year that the Muslim Brotherhood was in power than were built worldwide during the same time frame. Christians are being killed to this day by the dozens, by the score, by Muslim terrorists all throughout Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, several places in Africa, including Nairobi, Uganda. They swarm on the churches during service, blocking the exits, and they just go through chopping off heads. The men, the women.